working with the framework than we have. But yeah, good to hear.
Yeah, we will always be happy to discuss cradle to cradle strategy and how we make it work. And yeah, with anyone who cares.
We do.
Just going to wait for one more minute here until the rest of our audience gets set up. All right, I think I'll make a start if everyone's ready. So
yep.
Welcome to today's webinar by the Danish Sound Cluster. The subject is sustainable transformation in audio companies. And the reason why we wanted to do this webinar is because Sina, my colleague here, and I have been out visiting a lot of different audio companies, some very large corporations and some smaller. And it's an important topic that everyone needs to approach. And we just could feel that everyone was at a different phase in the journey. So we wanted to, first of all, introduce the subject to those who are new to it. And then secondly, give you some concrete examples of how audio companies and some construction or engineering companies are doing all kinds of processes. And then finally, to let you know about our new network group, which will be started later this month. And my colleague Sina will say a few words about that. Let's unmute Sina.
Yes, thank you, Shelley. Hi, I'm Sina. I'm a project manager in Danish Sound Cluster as well as Shelley, and I'm also facilitating the network, the sustainability in the and the UN global goals in the audio industry. So we decided, talking to all these exciting companies in the sound industry, that we would love to invite those sometimes lonely profiles in charge of the sustainability agenda in the different companies to find a common place to seek sparring, inspiration, and that's why we decided to open this network group. We're planning on meeting 4 to 6 times a year. And we are looking for profiles, of course, from the industry. That could be employees, that could be managers. It doesn't really matter as long as you are keen on learning more about sustainability, and also especially, how can you say, transforming those sometimes very fluffy visions and initiatives to some concrete action in the companies. And especially, I think Vibeke will talk about that measurable initiatives also. And I've seen that on the participant list today, there are approximately 40 organizations participating. So welcome all of you. And you're from very different companies, but also from knowledge institutions and also some independents and other associations. So this also witnesses there's a broad interest, and we want to support, of course, that this keeps on growing. Yep.
Thanks a lot, Sina. So before we jump in, I will just give you some practical information. We have a Q&A chat. So if you have any questions for our speakers, please write it in the Q&A chat, and we can either take it at the end of their presentation or later on in the discussion. If you have general comments or feedback, you can write it in the chat. And we will send the presentations and the recording afterwards, so you will have access to all the information again. Unfortunately, one of our presenters today and her entire family caught corona, so she is unable to be with us. But we have 3 excellent speakers. We have Elliot from Ramble, Mads from Bang & Olufsen, and Vibeke from Trolltech. And we will start with a presentation from Elliot Moore, who is a strategic sustainability consultant. from Ramble. He's going to give a broader introduction to the subject, and then we'll move on with some more concrete audio cases as well. So enjoy. Thank you very much for being here, Elliot.
Great. Hi. Thank you so much, Shelley. Can you all hear me? Fine.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, and I've shared my screen because I've got a few slides. I wanted to start off with just introducing myself. As Shelley said, I'm a strategic sustainability consultant based at Ramboll in Copenhagen. What does that actually mean? Basically, I help a range of different organizations to go through a three-step process to understand their environmental impact, set some realistic ambitions for the future, and then co-create action plans to achieve those. What we like to say is that we try and translate the complexity of sustainability and make it relevant for the specific organization, and then create a tailored process to help the transition. So when I was thinking about what does sustainability mean for those working in sound acoustics, it's probably the same for most organizations. You've heard about sustainability, and probably the most recent big news event was the IPCC report, which laid out some really stark warnings for humanity. We were running out of time. We must act now. There's a lot of belief that we need this next decade is the decade where we make or break our future. And it was interesting. Just a few days ago, the world's biggest investor called out that we must decarbonize or die. And so I think most people, when thinking about sustainability, probably think instantly of carbon emissions, but that is not the whole story. We often we have this carbon tunnel vision where we just focus on carbon emissions, but actually sustainability is so much more than that. It's so much more complex, and that is a real struggle for everyone. Just trying to decide what to eat for lunch is complex. But then if you take it to a company, they've got to try and understand whether social sustainability is more important than their carbon emissions or their ESG reporting. And there are many, many different frameworks that are available and are very useful for companies to start thinking about improving their sustainability. The Sustainable Development Goals are quite well known. They're pitched at the country level, so governments have to report up to the UN about their progress and on these 17 criteria. These are often not very useful for companies though, because it's too at high level. There's also frameworks for the circular economy. There's the cradle to cradle. There's frameworks about the buildings that where your offices or your manufacturing. For example, the World Green Building Council has recommendations, and then there's building certifications as well. So DGNB or LEED. So there's a lot of frameworks, but what I won't dive into those too much because I really wanted to talk about the sort of how do you get started about sustainability. And when we're talking to organizations, these are often the sort of top risks and opportunities that we see. So there's the real reputational risk of not doing anything, or the reputational risk of saying you're going to do something and being called out for greenwashing because you've set some arbitrary targets yourself and you haven't audited them. The second one, specifically for Denmark, is the carbon tax. Mette Frederiksen has committed to exploring a carbon tax. We're probably going to get one this year. It might be anywhere between 600 and 1,500 kroner per ton of carbon. So that will have a direct impact on profit and loss. There's the risks of non-compliance. There is European level regulations about ESG and non-financial reporting. And then we've also got supply chain disruption. We've seen that with the impact of COVID, how quickly things can start to unravel. And we're expecting worse weather that will have an impact across the supply chains. But on the flip side, there are many opportunities to starting on the sustainability journey. First thing is reduced costs, reducing the amount of waste in the supply chain and the amount of resources you use, improving efficiencies. There are new customers. I think the younger customers are very focused on this. And third one is internally, there's staff retention rates. There's a lot of studies that show that companies that have sustainability as a core part of their mission have better staff retention rates and higher productivity as a result. So, but how do we get started? I typically go through a 3-stage process, as I described before, where we set a baseline. So where are we now? And this is often means picking a framework that's relevant for your organization. So it might be that greenhouse gas emissions are important and you want to look at, if you're just an office-based company, then just picking your scope 1 and 2 emissions, those emissions that you emit within your building, is probably not that relevant because 90% of your emissions will be in your supply chain. So picking the scope 3 and what elements of scope 3 are important. A lot of companies do a resource input output analysis to understand what are they consuming and where is the waste happening. Hazardous chemicals, and also whether you're going to include social sustainability. So this is all about the well-being of your staff, but also the well-being and working conditions within your supply chain. So the baseline analysis is followed by, the ultimate ambition level. So this is often created at the corporate level. You need to set a realistic but ambitious goal. And one of my clients once said to me, ambitious means that we don't know how we're going to achieve it yet. And that's the kind of level we want to get to. If you're setting a target that you know how to achieve it, then it's not ambitious enough. And that's the scale of change and transformation that is required over the next decade. And it's really important that this ambition level is an independently audited scheme. A lot of companies set arbitrary targets for themselves based on a baseline, and they very carefully choose a baseline and carve out which scopes are important. But ultimately, there's a real reputational risk there, and there's a risk that the transformational change that is required won't be achieved because you're paying lip service to the change. And then finally, creating an action plan. What we've seen is that while the ambition level is set at the corporate level, it's vital that you co-develop the action plan with all the stakeholders. And that means working with factory floor employees, with your clients, with neighbors, because, and I love this quote, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you have not managed to transform and got the buy-in of your employees, then it doesn't matter what your ambition is, it will never be achieved. So change management is a vital part of sustainability. And so really what we like to see is that sustainability is just like any other corporate strategy process. It's complex, but ultimately it can be achieved. I'll finish with a quick case study. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I guess I've got a few minutes left. Interface is an organization based in the US. They make carpet tiles. So these are the square 50 by 50 tiles that are in every office. And they Interface decided in 1994, the CEO read a book about sustainability and how the world is running out of resources and that energy prices will spike after peak oil and things like that. And he decided that he was just going to eliminate the negative impact, the negative environmental impact of the company. And he set off on this transformation towards zero waste, and really employed the fundamentals of the circular economy by purchasing the used carpet tiles from their customers, and completely reorientating the manufacturing process so that they could 100% recycle the carpet tiles that they'd purchased back off the customers, and in such a way they achieved it. I won't go through all these slides, but they achieved it in 2019. They've gone completely zero, and it's a fascinating case study to read about, because their staff retention rates are sky high. Their customers are very happy because they're part of this mission, and ultimately they're saving a lot of money because their resources their inputs are very cheap to purchase back from the customers, and they're not subject to the rising commodities markets. So that was a little bit about strategic sustainability. So I'll hand over to the next speaker, or maybe there's some questions. Stop sharing.
Thanks very much, Elliot. I have a question.
Great.
For you. What is ESG reporting?
Yeah, environmental, social, governance. There is a financial reporting that is essential every year, and often companies report on their environmental and social performance, and they develop KPIs. It's been a little bit of a wild west. It's also called CSR, corporate social responsibility. It's a bit of a wild west, but there is some European legislation called the Non-Financial Reporting Directive that is forcing larger companies to have a much more standard process. And that actually feeds into a much bigger piece of legislation called the EU taxonomy, which is something that listed companies need to be aware of this year. They need to report how sustainable their operations and products are. And the European Union has defined what is a sustainable product and what is not a sustainable product. That is what the EU taxonomy is. Basically a taxonomy of what is sustainable and not sustainable. And that's, there are 6 elements to EU taxonomy. It's a really transformational piece of, and it has an impact at the corporate level of almost every large organization.
Okay, perhaps you could share a couple of links with us afterwards that we could send out in the email after.
Definitely, yeah. We've produced a couple of quick guides to what does the taxonomy mean and how to respond.
Great, thank you. I have another quick question. Do you at Ramble, do you also help very small companies, like under 50 people, or are you primarily working with larger corporations?
We work with a range of different companies. So we're 16,000 people at Ramble, and we have specialists in almost anything to do with the built environment. In fact, I think we've even got some some of my acoustics colleagues on the call. So we will work with almost all companies, probably fewer SMEs than larger companies.
Great, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to our next speaker. Thanks for the introduction, Elliot. So today we have Mads Korsgaard Hansen, who is the Senior Global Product Manager of Product Circularity and Classics Program at Bang & Olufsen, and he is going to share with us the experience of getting the Biosign level onto the market and cradle to cradle certified. So thank you very much for being here. Mads, I can see your presentation, it looks good.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for inviting me, and hello to all of you. I'm happy to be here to share some of our experiences at Bang & Olufsen, working with the topic of how to create a more sustainable future. So I think what I would like to do here in this short presentation is to maybe go from the higher corporate level down to more a product system level, and share a couple of cases of things that we are doing to improve and innovate for the better on this important topic here. So, so let me try to maybe start by sharing a few words about who I am. My name is Mads Korsgaard Hansen, and I've been working for Bang & Olufsen for a little more than 4 years. I'm part of the product management team at Bang & Olufsen. That means that I have a commercial sort of approach to how we work with innovation, and basically also looking into how a more sustainable future also can benefit our business at broader scale here. I have a background in chemical engineering, trained as a material specialist, but I'm also a little bit of a hybrid because I have a business degree in strategic marketing as well, marketing management, and also I have been working a lot with innovation processes like design thinking, sort of to create insights-driven design and innovations. So that's a little bit of you can say a multidisciplinary background, which is actually well needed when you start looking at sustainability from a very broad and complex perspective. But I'm not 100% sure that maybe everyone on the call knows who Bang & Olufsen is, but we have been around since 1925, and through those more than 9 decades, we have been fueled by sound, vision, and design. We have, through that journey, of course, worked with a lot of different formats of sound, music, and TV entertainment over the years, and also many different technologies. Today, we are operating in a range of product categories. We have what we call the on-the-go use cases covered by truly wireless in-ears headphones. We have headphones like the ones that I'm wearing here. We have small, compact, portable Bluetooth speakers. And then we have also wireless speakers for the home, large, high-performing stereo speakers, and TVs. So we're basically covering a range of product categories. And I think the starting point for me here would be to also share that the importance of really understanding each of these categories and basically systems surrounding those categories, to build up a deep understanding of that, because there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to improving, you can say, the sustainability performance on these different categories. So that's definitely a challenge at hand to find dedicated strategies for each of those areas. But if I should just for a second zoom out a little bit on the context that we are operating in, we see ourselves as being part of the consumer electronic industry, sort of in a broader sense. And if you look at the industry, I think there's no doubt that the way that the industry is operating today is not a long-term sustainable one, because we are losing a lot of materials, we are losing a lot of energy. We are shipping products globally as an industry, and we are also creating a lot of electronic waste. In fact, it's a really increasing amounts of electronic waste globally that we see these days, and we also do see a radical decline in average product lifecycle duration, which is also a huge challenge in the industry. That is, of course, a problem or challenge that we as an industry have created over the years, and we as Bang & Olufsen, we are part of that industry, and that also means that we are part of the problem, for sure. So basically what we would like to do is to start working on new solutions, new ways to change basically consumer behavior around our products, to maybe even change value perception, because we believe that the right way, at least for us to go here, is to set new standards for what we call design for longevity, basically making it relevant for our customers to keep our products longer, not just as a as a concept of durability and quality, but also relevance, right? It should actually be relevant and attractive to keep our products longer. And why are we looking into sort of addressing the challenge in that way? Of course, we have a heritage, we have a history at Bang & Olufsen from the 80s, 90s, even, right, where we actually did products that lasted 10, 15, or 20 years. So we do have some parts of our DNA that was born into this, so it feels very natural for us to try to do this. Of course, over the years, we have been challenged hugely on very rapid technological development there, which have, at least not as the conventional way of designing for long lifetime has been challenged because of the fast pace of technology. But we are now starting to see some shifts in our landscape also, that a lot of the technological development is actually moving from being hardware based or based on physical materials and components to be virtual and a digital development that actually gives us some new opportunities to work with designing the product and product architectures to last longer and be kept relevant. So basically bringing back longevity or long lifetime to our customers is this direction that we can see as our opportunity. But then, of course, it's a fair question to ask if longevity even exists in our industry. And it's also fair to say that whatever we do from now on, when we launch new products and design and create new stuff, everything that's related to how we talk about longevity there will basically just be a promise, right? We can try to assure everyone out there that we are committed to that promise, but it's still just a promise until we have finally succeeded in delivering on the longevity promise. And that's basically the outcome, right? That we need to wait years or even decades to see if we manage to do so. But we're also trying to address that challenge by looking into our past to see if we can actually find evidence for longevity actually as a thing that has actually happened, right? So we have been looking back into our design heritage. I'll come back to that a little more here in a moment. But the key thing is here that we have a parallel track approach, that we are looking at our past to find evidence for longevity and timeless qualities, and try to understand what has sort of, how have these products earned that recognitions, and how come are they still being perceived as relevant for some of our audience on one hand, and on the other hand, how can we then design products for the future that basically reinterpret those qualities as part of the future that we want to create. And it's basically those two parallel tracks that I would like to touch a little bit more upon here in the following. So the first program that we have launched actually about a year ago is something that we call the Recreated Classics. And it's actually an interesting exercise to look back into our design heritage to see the number of products that we have created over the years, from the 70s, even 60s, 80s, and so on, and trying to see what we can learn from the way that we have done those products, and to which extent they are relevant for contemporary use cases as well. Where we started was actually with the Biogram turntable family, basically the model of the series called Biogram 4000C, which is actually a turntable that was originally designed and launched back in 1972. So that's actually, that's 50 years ago. The series was sort of evolved over the years to also progress over other models called Biogram 4002, 4004, and so on. So it was a product that was kept in the market for around 10 years or so. It's a turntable that has been sort of broadly recognized as being an iconic design. It's actually permanently displayed at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. It was designed by Jakob Jensen back in the early 70s. So what we actually did with the turntable is that we actually started to bring back some of those units with more than 40 years history back to our factory in Struer. And then we developed a process of recreating. So what does that mean? Well, we actually took all of these turntables and then we disassembled every single piece of mechanical component and electronic component there. We did a lot of deep dive on understanding the product architecture and actually realized that there was a vast amount of modularity put into the design, which actually makes it fairly easy to disassemble the product and even refurbish and restore the different functionalities. So we took advantage of that, and we actually developed a process where we started to recreate the original components to look like new. So what you see here is actually the original aluminium that is more than 40 years old that has been through our factory in Struer and been remachined to look like new, for example. Then we also added some new elements, a new pickup cartridge, and some new design features like a solid oak wood frame, a new dust lid, and we also built in a rear preamplifier to upgrade technology so that the turntable could actually be connected through a line signal cable to our current modern speaker technology. So why did we do this? First of all, it was a great way to really dive deep into the understanding of what are actually timeless qualities and how can product be engineered to be future-proofed and actually be prepared for upgrade and so on. But what we also wanted to do was to test a circular business model. So what we did is actually that we bought back the pre-owned units and we worked with them. And then we actually resold them in a very, very limited collection of 95 units as a collection, which was actually sold at a fairly high price as almost collector's items, selling at 75,000 Danish kroner per unit. And we saw huge demand and we could have sold many, many more units. And that also taps into our sort of, you can say, the point that we would like to make here, that it could be possible to rethink value perception of consumer electronic products. Something that is pre-owned and used does not have to be not so great. It can actually be even more interesting than new products. So that has actually has been a project that has given us a lot of good learnings, and it is a program that will continue to grow in the future. But what we also could see that, you know, if we should zoom more into the time of today, we definitely see the opportunities around us in the future circular economy, also for the product categories that we are operating in. Still, longevity will have to be the core at everything we do, but we would like to sort of expand the lifetime of the product to not just be one ownership, but it would actually be products circulating in several loops. And it could even also be sort of expanding the longevity scope to also being raw materials. So how can we work with designing and selecting materials that can be part of a closed material loop to sort of keep resources flowing and preserve the value of those resources. So that means that we are basically looking at what we call the inner circles of the circular economy. First of all, trying to set new standards for the lifetime duration of the first, you can say, ownership or useful life cycle. We are exploring ways to offer a lifetime extension further on top of that, and even ways to give second life or more to products. Then, of course, we are looking into also how we can work with materials for more circular sourcing perspective. All of these interesting opportunities needed a structure and a framework. And that is why we have actually initiated also a product program called the Cradle to Cradle Certified Program. And that is something that is, we have started with the launch of our speaker called Biosound Level that was actually launched around a year ago. What was interesting with the Cradle to Cradle product standard is actually that we were looking for a structure and also a science-based approach to progressing in the right direction, and that is actually exactly what the Cradle to Cradle framework offers. It's a science-based standard. It's the most ambitious out there for designing products for a circular economy. It's third-party audited. That means that we have world-leading experts basically auditing and giving us guidance on how to improve our solutions and our product designs, which is something that we believe is important because we need to know if we are going in the right direction. The framework also offers many different, you can say, a range of different levels of achievement. It starts with bronze, it goes on to silver, gold, and platinum. So it also has a sort of an inherent pathway for improving basically and optimizing your products and solutions over the years, which is something that is of key importance for us as well. But how did we then work with this program? We did the Biosound level speaker, as you can see here, which was actually something that we announced as the world's first cradle-to-cradle certified consumer electronic product in September 2020. And I would like to share with you a little bit more insights on how we approach basically this. So a quick introduction to the product. It's Biosound level. It's a movable wireless speaker, mainly for usage in your home and nearby home context. It's a very flexible product that can both stand on its edge, it can hang on the wall, and it can also lay flat for a more social listening experience. In each of those placements, we will have an automatically adjustment of the tuning and sound experience to optimize the listening context and the placement. So that's part of the very versatile and flexible features of the product. So we would like to say that this product has been made to be anything else but static, not just in placement and use case, but actually also when we look at it over time. Because what the design team and sort of the development team around the product actually decided is that, you know, when we do this kind of speaker, we would like to challenge ourselves to see what would it require if we should really design for longevity. And the immediate target that was set in the team was, how can we make this a relevant speaker for our customers beyond a decade? And looking into some of our learnings from the Recreated Classics program and other projects that we have been running, we definitely saw some great opportunities by focusing deeply on modularity in our approach to designing the product, but also to putting together the product architecture. So what we did actually was that we tried to imagine that long lifetime, how would that look and be experienced from a user or customer perspective, and what would be the barriers for actually succeeding with our more than a decade of use. And if we sort of try to, almost in a chronological order, try to run you through that journey as we envision it, as seen from a customer perspective, we know that how people's lives evolve over the years and how they decide to live in their home and how they decorate their home or choose whatever they surround themselves with at home is actually a very evolving thing. And we also know that to get new stimuli and basically try to fight the barrier of a crave for newism, it's actually interesting if you can build in features to the product that can change the look and the presence of the product over time. So at Bang & Olufsen, we have for many years worked a lot with customization options so that you can actually fit the look and the feel of your product so that it matches your taste, but also the way that you want to decorate your home. And that's also a built-in feature for Biosound level here, where you can change over time between different materials and colors and fronts to really totally change the expression of the speaker. That is, of course, not saving the world alone. That is more talking into what I would call emotional durability, to keep the loudspeaker or the object product relevant and interesting over the years that you're using it. But emotions are not everything, right? We also need to deliver on function. And as we have here a portable or movable speaker, which is powered by battery, we know that there are limitations in current lithium-ion battery technology in terms of keeping the performance and lifetime of battery. So for that reason, we have prepared Biosound level here to be easily, the battery pack to be easily replaced as a consumer-facing solution. You basically just need a simple screwdriver to be able to take off the front cover and then open the lid to the battery compartment. And then 5 or 8 years from now, depending on how you use the product, you can basically just order a new battery pack and put it in and return the old battery pack to Bang & Olufsen to make sure that you still have the playtime that is relevant to use the product. But battery is not the only sort of technological barrier or challenge. We know that connectivity and performance, first of all, connectivity can change over a period of time. And even though that we have prepared the product in a way to be future-proof, at least for the coming years, there can still be a future, let's say 10 years from now, that can be difficult to predict. So the way that we have approached this is basically in 2 different ways. First of all, we have, you can say, almost over-engineered the product in the sense that it's only taking advantage of 50% of the processing power from you take the product out of the box today. That leaves extra room to actually add new features, improve performance, or even maybe adjust to new streaming standards in the future as basically software updates that can be sent to the product over the air. So that's an attempt to build in, first of all, some flexibility and options for adapting, but also to offer basically a custom experience that will evolve further over the period of the ownership. So the product is not to be perceived as static. It gets new features and new functionalities. At some point in time, maybe this is not sufficient to keep up with the technology development. And for this reason, we have also prepared the product to have an upgradable streaming module, which is a small chip, square chip you can see below here. And we have created our own streaming platform for that, and also added standardized connectors, so that a number of years from now, if new standards have appeared, we can offer a new and updated streaming module that can be put into the product to adjust to future standards. This is something that will be offered as a service solution, not as a consumer-facing solution directly. No matter what we do, and yeah, at some point in time, the product will reach its end of the first useful life cycle. And that is also where modularity can help, at least if you look at in a broad product system scale, because the advantages of this assembly is not just to make a product easy to service, repair, and even upgrade. It also allows for a easy disassembly at the end of life disposal situation, and it also allows to sort out the components and material fractions into pure streams that can feed into the conventional infrastructure for recycling to get higher yields and hopefully higher quality also in the recycling process. So that is also some of the benefits that we can see from working with modularity. But it also gives us actually, that's an interesting, I think, sort of dilemma that you have. We're basically designing the products today that should deliver on the user needs of today, keep them relevant over decades, but maybe also even on top of that, give us new opportunities to evolve our business further at the same time. So modularity could also actually help us to do something similar X number of years from now to the Beosound Level loudspeaker in the same way that we have done with the turntable. So basically working with a more closed loop business model where we take back Beosound Level speakers, use the modularity to disassemble and recreate the speaker and upgrade it with new components, refine the surfaces and the finishing touch, and then basically it can be resold as an upgraded product. So that is actually also an opportunity that this kind of design features could enable in the future. This is of course not something that we have launched yet, but it's just to say that, you know, building in these functionalities from the get-go also gives us some interesting future commercial opportunities that we would like to do. And then I think it's very important to state that we cannot say that Beosound Level as such in absolute sense is a sustainable speaker, right? It's designed to have a long lifetime, and it's also designed to perform well in a circular context. It also still means that we have a lot of work to do as an industry, and also we as a company. And we basically have just started the journey with a more structured approach to working and designing working with and designing products for a circular future. So basically, you can say as long as we can improve, we are not done. So still a lot of interesting work to do. Okay, that was what I had to share.
Thank you very much, Mads. Very interesting indeed, and congratulations on the certification.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure the company must be very proud of that. How has the response been? I'm sure it's like can only have a positive effect on your brand.
So I mean, the experiences has been fantastic, and the response has been fantastic. It's actually when we started to look into the whole framework of cradle to cradle, it was not something that we have not done before, right? And no one has done it for consumer electronic products. So we of course are uncertain about what it actually would require of us. But it was actually comforting to sort of learn that it's actually not that different from the way that we have been approaching product design over the years, at Bang & Olufsen, because modularity has been part of our way of creating products, and design for repairability and service has also been something that we have done. Of course, we need to sort of maybe structure things in a little bit different way, and also looking even more detailed into where we could improve further on this. We are of course very happy to learn that it could be done for as complex a product as a audio product here, and that also means that of course we have appetite for more. This is something that we would like to keep evolving, and we need these principles to be part as an integrated part of the way that we do products. And I have had sort of the pleasure of telling this story to a lot of different external stakeholders and medias around the world, and I must say that the reactions has been fantastic. And I also think that we have sensed a lot of pride internally at Bang & Olufsen, because it has really been something that also resonates with all of us and the sets of values that we represent. So it's actually been a very positive experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was thinking about all of the audio nerds I know, and how many of them have some old Bang & Olufsen speaker or amplifier record player sitting at home, and how all of those could potentially be brought back to life as well. But I don't know if it was done by Bang & Olufsen or I think maybe it was together with another company, but you designed a board, Create, something where people can transform their speakers into active speakers. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, that is a collaboration that we did, and it's actually something that is available as an option to, you can say, upgrade older Biogram speakers, so passive loudspeakers, can be rebuilt as a do-it-yourself customer consumer solution to become wireless, and even adding, I think, both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity. So definitely figuring out ways to manage technology obsolescence is the key challenge, number one in our industry. That's for sure. And we're definitely also looking into that, because it's not just about how we design products and maintain them forward. We also need to secure the legacy of each of the products that we have created, right? Because otherwise we have not delivered on the objective of longevity, right? So that's of course it's a big task, but it's something that we are very committed to do.
Excellent. I have more questions for you, but I'll let the audience have a go as well. So this is from Sina Thompson. Can you speak about some of the internal barriers you have experienced in this process?
That's actually interesting, because I actually have not seen that many internal barriers. Of course, I have spent a little time on explaining it to many of my great colleagues within the different functions and areas of expertise. What is the idea here? What are the requirements? Why do we want to do this? And I think as soon as I've spent time on explaining that, it has seemed to be something that has made sense really across the many different functions, because I have seen nothing but support. I think many of us are just starting to get even more impatient that we want to do more, of course. So actually, and that's also, I think, back to maybe the fact that these principles are actually fairly close to the way that we have been creating products without just calling it cradle to cradle or design for circularity, right? So I think it has not been a radical or disruption of how we do things. I think it's more about refining some of the things that we have, or the way that we have addressed things.
Yeah, definitely, with all of your high quality, long life products, durable materials that you've been using. Okay, this is from Jan Belle Larsen. Do you see legislation of extended guarantee as a simple means to ensure longer lifetime of basic electronics?
So extended, I think it could be interesting to start reporting as an industry or be more transparent on designed lifetime of products, at least, right? So that you as a consumer can expect, or at least get an idea about, what can I expect in terms of lifetime of a certain product within different categories. I think it could be great to find ways to be more transparent in the industry around that. Of course, warranty is like it's a commercial vehicle that you as a company or brand could put into play if you believe that is needed to, you can say, maybe give comfort to consumers that would be a little bit more hesitant, right? I'm not a fan necessarily of sort of forcing anything on warranty, but I think it could be great to be more transparent on designed lifetime and basically setting up standards to quantify this. Of course, that's not as simple, because it depends a lot on how you use the product and where you use the product. But I know that the EU is working also on a framework on a durability index, which is basically addressing sort of a dimension of reliability and repairability and upgradability. I think that can maybe help at least consumers to be guided a little bit more in terms of taking purchasing decisions, and those that want to support a longer lifetime for products maybe have a little bit more transparency to those choices.
Thank you very much. This is a question from Kel Emerson. How much energy is used in respectively the production, usage by the consumer, and scrapping phase for a Bang & Olufsen product? Big question.
Yeah, that is an interesting, because I don't have the data here at hand. I also would say that why we have started, the reason for starting with the cradle to cradle framework is that it starts at branch level, where it sets out a little bit more qualitative directions for where to focus your effort, and where to document and collect data and set targets for improvements, right? It's not an integral part of the branch level certification requirements that you need to provide a full-blown, very detailed life cycle analysis, for example, right, for carbon emissions or other impact parameters. And we have not done that for level yet, but it's something that we want to do. Also going back to the talk earlier here on reporting and so on. So we are definitely looking into at ESG level as well, corporate level, to actually get more data behind and also support our decision making in terms of how we design products in a more you can say quantifiable way. So I don't have the data here to be shared, but it talks very much into the fact that if we should understand the full impact of a product, then we need to understand all elements of the system. It's not just the energy consumption; it's the waste created throughout the value chain. It's the transportation, both distances and transportation modes. It's the lifetime of the product, and it's of course also end of life scenarios, not just in one market, but basically globally, that we need to understand. So it's a very complicated matter, and that's where some of the tools, as presented by Ramphel as well, also could become of relevance.
Yeah, and I can imagine that a lot of consumers they will increasingly be demanding more of these stats and facts on the website, but it is very complex. So how are you going to communicate that to to customers? Maybe more info, but even more info. Not everyone will want that or understand all of the information you have to give. Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. Another one. Why do you think a Bang & Olufsen product will be disassembled when scrapped?
Come again? Why? I think it will be
disassembled when scrapped. I guess
why?
When it comes to the end of its life.
Well, yeah, so that depends a little bit of the scenario, right? Of course, our hope and expectation is that once one customer sort of is done with his or her ownership of the bare sound level, we would actually like to look at different ways to give it a second life. It could be, of course, just directly resale of a pre-owned product that is happening to a large extent everywhere for our products. So it does not have to be scrapped and disassembled after the first ownership. But the point is that eventually, at some point, it would be at a state maybe that where for some reason a customer would just want to dispose the product. And then, we need to understand, at least on a shorter term, how that actually, how does the infrastructure for recycling consumer electronic product actually work globally? We have the extended producer responsibility framework in the EU and also in a lot of other countries that actually set up some systems to collect waste electronics and work with recycling there. But of course, it could be even more efficient if we can, as a brand, could find ways to get our own products back, because we know all about them and we know the materials and we know how to repair them and so on. So that is also the point of exploring new, you can say, business models or operating models for the future that could benefit both us as a company, but also, of course, in terms of environmental footprint as well.
Definitely. I can imagine going to a Bang & Olufsen shop and exchanging, maybe paying something and getting a new model. Okay, we've got quite a few more questions. Let's take a couple of them and then we can come back to it again at the end if there's time. From Joe Jensen, just a comment. I was surprised to see how far away the cradle-to-cradle certification of the B&O level was hidden on your website. I believe you should use this fact as an important sales parameter. Why else would people spend 10K on a Bluetooth speaker? I believe many people would need to buy into the sustainability story in order to pay that price. I don't know if Joe has listened to the speaker yet, but
no, but it is a fair point, and what I think it just also tells is that we are also really on a journey here. It's our first product. We didn't even know if it would be possible to do it, and now luckily we have learned that it can be done. So of course the next step for us is to understand, and also we need to present it to the world to see if it actually makes sense, and it did, right? So that's where we are right now. So we are of course looking into how can we then scale this further. How can we make it an even more integral part of the Bang & Olufsen brand experience, not just in the stores, but also on our digital channels and so on. And then I just have to state as a little bit of a service message here, it's not just a Bluetooth speaker, it's a Wi-Fi speaker that can play also in a multi-room setup, but that's just a service info. I think that the last important comment here is that we are very careful with not calling this a sustainable speaker. Of course, we are trying to use this as a sort of case for, you can say, in relative sense, to create a more sustainable speaker. We are actually very careful with not using the S word. So we will actually rather like to talk into longevity and long lifetime, and we will also like to talk into options for circularity, because that is actually what we, and of course that can if that's done in the right way, it will positively impact the overall environmental footprint of the product, right? So that's of course also a part. But value perceptions is also, in my mind, closely linked to not just quality, but basically also the expected lifetime of a product. So the 10,000 Danish kroner could be written off over 10 years, then it's just 1,000 kroner per year, right?
Exactly.
Compared to a situation where you pay it up front and then the product is worth nothing when you leave the store, right? So I think it's an integral part of value perception.
And let's take one last question. This is from David Bianco. Hello. How do you ensure that suppliers will keep on supplying parts for such a product? Yeah, that's a big question as well. Yeah, so I think I guess that's relating to the long lifetime, you can say, right, of the product, or the commitment to basically do that. Normally we, as a standard, we do have for loudspeakers, we have an 8-year service period. So that means that at least as a standard, right? And we are now looking into expanding that. So that also means that from the day that the last product has been sold, we are committed to actually provide spare parts, and that's of course part of our contracting with our suppliers. And in some cases, we basically need to buy some extra stock to make sure that we have these in inventory, these different components, so that we can provide those as service solution beyond the 8 years, or in some cases also 10 years.
So that depends on which kind of product that we are talking about. But that's part of the way that we are contracting with our suppliers. And we have done that for many years. Of course, now we would like to expand it, sort of the duration even further, and we are looking into how to handle that.
Thank you very much, Mads. I think you've answered all of those questions very well, and you're clearly passionate about it, and Bang & Olufsen is clearly on a good path. So hopefully we'll have time to come back to you at the end. Let's move on to our final speaker for today. It is Vibeke Pillesen from Trolltech, and she is the head of engineering, and she is another ildsjæl for sustainability, and will share with us how Trolltech has been working with sustainability over the past years every day. Thank you for being here, Vibeke.
Thank you. I'll try to share.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me. It's very great to be here. My name is Vibeke Pillesen. I'm head of technical department and R&D at Trolltech. You called me an ildsjæl, but if some of you may know Trolltech and from sustainability in other areas, you might have met my colleague Tina, who is actually the sustainability ildsjæl here at the company. Let me first of all talk a bit about the program. I'd like to start with a short introduction to Trolltech and the product. Then I'd like to talk a bit about product life cycle. Then something about cradle to cradle, and then I would like to tell you how we work with cradle to cradle, and go into take an overview, and then go into some deep dives in that story. And then I'd like to talk about UN Sustainable Development Goals. And at the end, I would like to give you the sustainability on a formula, because we have invented that actually, or at least the formula that works for Trolltech. And to finalize, I would like to give you 7 good advice in how to work with the sustainability and how to approach it. So hang in there. It's going to be about 20 minutes about sustainability, cradle to cradle, and Trolltech. Short about the company. The company is founded here in Aarhus in 1855, so it's a very old company. We have a production in Trollhede, a small town in western Jutland, and it was founded in 1935, and they have been producing Trolltech plates since 1936, of course. The company is Danish family owned, and we only have production in Trollhede in Jutland. Sales and administration in Aarhus. We have an office in Hamburg. We have an office in Malmö, and we're about approximately 175 employees at the moment. Trolltech is a sound absorbing material for wall and ceilings. It is produced in Denmark. It is made out of pine wood and cement. We have PEFC certificated wood and FSC certificated wood. And this is some examples of what a ceiling or wall made of Trolltech material can look like. These are designer products that is made as a standard product in our production. But that will show you a bit about how diverse you can make a room look by using Trolltech acoustic panels. Of course, they are used as walling and ceiling material, but they have very fine acoustic values as well. High acoustic performance, healthy indoor climates, efficient fireproofing, and long durability. That's some of the most important things there are to say about our products. Resistance to variations in humidity and temperature, and of course a natural high strength coming from the cement. Actually, they are often used in sports arenas as ceilings and wallings. So that would be all about the product and our journey in environmental improvement and in sustainability started with the Royal Handshake back in 2010, where the company received Byggeriets Miljøpris, and the Crown Prince of Denmark awarded or handed out the award to our managing director, Per. So that's how the the journey started. Well, when we work with sustainability, we only work with documented sustainability. And that's because we try to keep a very high standard on our trustworthiness towards our customer. When we're working with sustainability, we were working with the full supply chain. That is, we're working with materials, with the transportation, with the production, and with the use phase of the product, and with recycling. And I would be honest to tell you right now that they are not equally easy to work with. I can say that. We hold a cradle-to-cradle certification in the level of silver. That is great. We are approaching the gold certification in a couple of months. That is our leading star. That is our cradle-to-cradle. Then we're also working a lot with the documentation packages for sustainable buildings. So that could be BREEAM, DGNB, and LEED. And then we are working on the EPDs, that is environmental product declarations. You can also work with PEF, product environmental footprints. There are different approaches to doing that, but this is what we so far has approached. Back to the cradle to cradle, there are some principles that is important to understand when you're working with cradle to cradle. The most important is, I guess, the waste equals food sentence, that nothing is waste. If you try to think that you should use all your waste as a food product, or as a product that can be circled, and it could be circled in the as a biological nutrient or as a technical nutrient. That is, I think, the most important thinking, and that's also the most difficult part, I think. Then, of course, we should use as much as possible of renewable energies. That is very important in terms of the CO2 at this moment, CO2 emissions. And then celebrate diversity as a whole. And I'd like to give you some examples on how we are approaching that. The cradle-to-cradle design process, when we are designing, is to optimize positive impact. The mindset is about doing more of the right things than doing less of the bad things. So you should try to optimize positive environmental impacts in all areas. And that means that you should you should know your inventory, you should know what's in your product, and then you should assess your product and then try to optimize it. And that's basically the way through a cradle-to-cradle design process. Working with cradle-to-cradle, you have to fulfill 5 criteria. You have to work with material health, material reutilization, renewable energy, water stewardship, and social fairness. And depending on how good you perform, you can reach all from basic level to bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. I think at this moment, there are only a very few companies holding the platinum level, but it is possible, and it is, I don't know if we at all have any in Denmark that has it, but for sure there's a lot of companies holding the gold level, and that's a very good level to have. Let me go into the process of the different of the 5 criteria, starting with the material health. It's all about designing healthy products. Don't use products that is unhealthy, and watch out for chemicals that are harmful. We start by looking at our product, and then we're looking at all homogeneous materials, and then the substances are evaluated that it holds more than 100 parts per million in the product. And in those materials, they are evaluated if the chemical component has a threshold of more than 100 parts per million. And then the cradle to cradle looks at if there are any harmful substances. That is an assessment that is impossible for a company to do themselves. You'll have to work together with one of the cradle to cradle companies that is assessing in cradle to cradle, and that is holds the authorization to do those reviews. Of course, that costs some money, but it's not incredibly expensive. Trolltech and material health. Back in 2012, we started the journey. So we started by having the bronze level, and in 2013 we got the silver level for our products. So we have actually 10 years anniversary in Cradle to Cradle this year. That's great. We try to be ambitious, and we try to get we hold certification for almost all our products. All our woodwork products has the certification, also the difficult ones. And for us, the difficult one has been the painting. And we have discussed how to improve on the painting. You see, we have a new painting line, or years ago we bought a new painting line that reduces waste by more than 70% by recycling the painting. The problem is that when you're doing that, you need to put a small amount of biocide into the paint so that it is durable, that it won't rot during the process. And that is exactly the reason why that we can't go to gold level, because the biocide is on the X-rated list. So we have been working on new recipes together with our paint supplier, and we have received the new paint, we have tested it, and we are reaching gold level in our product this year. And we are very happy to celebrate that. But I also have to tell you that when changing the paint material on a Trolltech plate, that actually means that we need to go through all our portfolio in new testing. Fireproofing, indoor climate, everything has to be renewed. So this one was a very expensive one to do. But it brought us from the level of silver to the level of gold. Then I'd like to talk to you about one of the difficult, and that is actually the material reutilization. The cradle to cradle states that we have to design to eliminate waste, and the goal is to reach 100% recovery and upcycling. That's a difficult one. I'd like to show you a picture. We can all understand that producing something that goes into the bin, that is what we call linear economy. And then we can use it over and over again. For example, in Denmark, we reuse bottles from beers and soda, and then after a several amount of reuse, then it still ends in the bin. That is not circular economy. That's recycling economy. What Cradle to Cradle wants us to do is actually that we never end in the bin, and that's a very difficult task. We don't hold that for our full product yet, but we hold it for some parts of our product. And I'll show you an example about long lifetime. It is not circular, but this is a picture of the airport in Aarhus in Tirstrup Lufthavn. And the ceiling was made back in 1958. There was put in a Trolltech ceiling, and they wanted to replace it when they were redoing the airport a couple of years ago. And we persuaded them actually to paint it. So they just painted the ceiling, and the ceiling is actually 70 years old. So it is a rather old product with a very long lifetime, but it's still not circular. We would like to achieve circularity in our product. We'd like to have our wood wall panels to be able to be composed and returned to nature as soil improver. That will go into the biological circle or the technical circle. Our production waste is returned to our cement producer and used to replacing fossil fuels and virgin materials. So we're doing it, but again, we're doing it for a part of our product, but it is our goal to do it completely. Then we should talk about renewable energy, and the part about renewable energy is of course use the energy that we have instead of using the and keep the carbon in the soil for vegetation. By 2013, we used only we started to change our power to wind power only. And 2 years ago, we achieved the level of all the electricity we buy. We got that from windmills at Anholt. So the CO2 emission comes not from our production, it comes from the production of cement. But it's still our goal to improve on that. And right now we're launching new products that is a product from Aalborg Portland that is CO2 reduced cement that we're using as a component in our product. And then we are always working with new and alternative materials, for example, not cement materials such as geopolymers and other binding agents. We're working with water stewardship. That is also mandatory in the Cradle to Cradle. I have to say, in Denmark, that is not a difficult one, because the goal is that water is cleaner than water out is cleaner than water coming in. The water coming in Denmark is perfectly clean, so you just have to deliver perfectly clean wastewater. And it's actually not that big a problem, because we have facilities all over in Denmark to clean the water. And if we have any contaminated water, we can pick it up and have it cleaned and disposed of as such. And that's what we do to keep our goal here. Then we work with responsible business operation and ethics for all stakeholders, and partner up with all our stakeholders. We do that by making our corporate social responsibility report supporting the Global Compact, and by 2021 we received the best sustainability reports in the SME segment, and we're of course very proud of that. So we have now 10 years with Cradle to Cradle. We have a strategy for how to improve. You need to do that in order to keep your Cradle to Cradle certificate. You need to improve your strategy map every time you will go to a higher level. And that's what this is showing. Then we work with UN Sustainability Development Goals, and that is actually where we started. This is quite interesting. We found out that the deal must be realistic. We started by, we asked ourselves, can a company like Trolltech with 7 goals and 169 sub-goals? No, we cannot. So we decided that it is crucial for us to be able to link our concrete measures to each goal, and we have chosen 7 goals and 4 goals and 7 sub-goals where we really can make a difference. And that is what we do in our daily business. We have pointed out those 4 goals, and we have pointed out the 7 sub-goals. And we have a portfolio where we drive those ambitions into actions. And this is actually what really makes us go ahead together with the Cradle to Cradle strategy. We also work with building certifications by providing data, and that is primarily providing data in the environmental agenda. That is quite easy for a company producing products for building materials, because there are an agenda going there with the certifications systems already. So now we come to the point where I'd like to give you our small sustainability formula. And it's actually very easy. If you work with corporate social responsibility and you work with circular economy, plus the UN sustainability goals, and in this part we have worked circularity, circular economy equals Cradle to Cradle, then we found that this is the way Trolltech worked with sustainability. And you are very free to do the same. I can definitely recommend it. And I can also, and I have to say that driving the agenda is not more difficult than doing that. Picking your goals and then staying with them. At the end of this, I'd like to give you 7 advice. They are not my advice, they are the advice of our managing director. He's often asking on what is good advice when you should drive a sustainability agenda. And they are here, the 7 advice. The most important is at the top. The top management must be involved and lead the way. And then make it visible in the company values. And that was such a great thing that Elliot told us earlier, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you have to make it live in the company every day. Continuous improve, provide examples that supports the company value and company DNA. That is basically to stop the culture eating the strategy. And actually, one of the important ones, I think, is that sustainability must be supported by a business case. Because if there's no business case in the matter, there's no reason for doing it. And after all, the businesses that we all work in are here to provide money to the stakeholders. You must be prepared to have your customer and partners to watch over your shoulder to show some transparency. All the CSR, CE, and sustainability must be united and takes a leading person, preferably a very decided person, an ildsjæl. And in this company, it is for sure my colleague, Tina Snedgaard Christensen, who has been driven the agenda in Trolltech for more than 10 years now. And the last part is that it takes time, resources, and long-term investment. And it is a long-term investment to secure sustainability in a company. That is basically what I was planning to talk about for today. Thank you very much for your attention. It has been great being here.
Thank you very much, Vibeke. That was great. Great to hear about the long history and the journey at Trolltech. And congratulations on your 10-year anniversary and your gold certification.
Thank you.
We have
Hopefully gold certification. We haven't received it yet.
Sorry. Yes, fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely.
We have one question here. What are the reactions from the market on the huge efforts you have done to introduce more sustainable production methods?
There's a great awareness of the company. We have definitely had a very good business case on driving the sustainability agenda. When our sustainability manager, Tina Christensen, is invited to speak on webinars and conferences all over the world, and she is not invited to speak about Trolltech, she is invited to speak about sustainability. But of course she speaks about Trolltech, and that is for sure the best marketing material that we can ever have. That is one thing, for sure. The other thing is that we work a lot together with the architects, and I think that right now the building area is moving towards more and more sustainable building, and it's definitely we feel a great interest in our products due to the sustainability agenda.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've also noticed that trend when speaking to all of our member companies. I'm sure Elliot has also experienced that. Elliot, have you anything to say to Vibeke about their progress so far?
It's fantastic to see, and what we're experiencing whenever we're helping companies that are designing buildings is that they want to meet the highest building certifications, as we spoke about, DGNB and LEED.
Yeah.
And one of the credits is to fit out the interiors of the buildings with products that have an environmental product declaration, an EPD. Yeah. And it's very rare that products have an EPD. So if you have an EPD, I think you'll have many architects phoning you up.
Yeah. Oh, we actually have 18 EPDs.
Yeah,
we have one for each product.
So it's very much a case of that first mover advantage. So if you do probably spend more time and effort achieving it, but there are great gains to be had if you're one of the first in the industry. You'll learn a lot, and you'll probably always stay ahead of your competitors.
I have a question, because I know many people out there are either building some kind of audio software or indeed very small hearing aids or audio devices. What things should they be, like in which areas should they be trying to get started with sustainability? Because there isn't an obvious carbon emission saving, or they're not using huge quantities of materials.
I would recommend that you look at the sustainability goals, the UN sustainability goals, and take a look at it and see where can we make a difference? What could be realistic for our company to work with? And then start there. Pick the ones that are most easy to work with, where you can make a matter, and then start there.
Yeah, I would agree. but also don't just look at the ones that you're positively affecting. So take a look at the ones that you're not contributing to, and check if you're having a negative impact, and how you could minimize that negative impact. There might be some hazardous chemicals that you're using, or the batteries, and you won't be able to eliminate all negative impacts. Certainly not straight away, but you can certainly develop a long-term action plan and start to develop new products. The key thing for me is that it takes time. I think Vibeke said that as well. And so my case study was Interface. They took about 25 years to achieve their long-term goal of net zero. So starting out, setting realistic short and medium targets, and celebrate the small wins, because that will really help you along.
Okay, I was hoping for some quick fixes, but there must be some initiatives, that you can just put into action almost immediately without spending 20 years.
Well, you should certainly look at the buildings that you occupy, reducing the energy consumption in the buildings, and then doing a resource input output analysis to identify what are the lowest hanging fruits.
All right, we are just about out of time actually, so we're going to have to wrap it up for today. But I would like to say thanks to all of our speakers. Thanks for being here. Your talks were great, and your input is really valued. And Vibeke is actually going to be joining us in our network group as a speaker and mentor as well, alongside some other experts. So if you're interested to continue learning more and being inspired by other people in the industry, then please do get in touch with us and you can sign up to our network group. There's also going to be a survey sent out. It takes 1 minute to fill out, so if you can just let us know what you think of the event, that's very helpful in our work in the Danish Sound Cluster. And also we're going to send an email tomorrow with a whole bunch of information with the presentations and some links. We just learned today actually about a program called the Green SMB program, and you can actually apply for grants to get started with sustainability. And the deadline is sometime in February, so might have to move quickly on that. But thank you very much for being here, everyone, and tune in to our upcoming events. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much, Mads, Vibeke, and Elliot. And thanks to our audience. Bye.
Bye.